Hey, this is Dr. Reyes. I want to talk about hydration. I get this question from my patients frequently. How much should I drink? I drink 64 ounces. Isn't that enough?
When do I know I'm well hydrated? There are too many factors to determine exactly the amount of water or electrolytes an individual should drink per day. Factors such as weather, physical activity level for the day, body composition, and health status governs the amount of water or electrolytes a person needs for the day. There are 3 criteria that I teach my patients to determine if they're well hydrated. Number 1, the color of the urine. If the urine is clear like water or has a yellow color, then it is a good sign. Number 2, the frequency. How often are they urinating? If they're urinating every 60 minutes, then the frequency is good. It can start probably backing off. Number 3, the baseline resting heart rate. If their resting heart rate is near their baseline, then this is a good sign. If you meet all 3 criteria, then you're likely well hydrated and you can start backing off the hydration.
Let's review some of the general guidelines from the CDC. Keep in mind, these guidelines were designed for people who did not have certain medical conditions, such as renal failure or people on dialysis and heart failure. You should seek a medical professional to help guide you about your hydration status if you have medical conditions that compromise your ability to monitor your hydration status or liquid status. I like here what the CDC published. Take a look. The urine color test is what I always say is one of the factors to check your hydration status. If you see clear like water, like up here, or a slight tinge of yellow, you're probably well hydrated. I also like this conversion over here. How much water is that? So 1 quart is 32 ounces. Is equal to 1 liter. You got some nice guidelines in here when you're working in heat. This down here is also very reasonable what they wrote here. What about salt tablets? You don't need to do salt unless you're losing electrolytes. So that means there's really only 3 ways you can lose electrolytes without any trauma. 1, you're vomiting. 2, diarrhea. And then 3, you're sweating it out. So if you are in a situation where you're losing electrolytes, then yes, maybe we could talk about salt tablets, but that's the exception, not the rule. Most people do eat enough and bring enough electrolytes in that water would be good with certain situations. I'm in Texas and I go running at 6 in the morning and it is super hot. I lose a lot of fluids sweating, so I drink Pedialyte or electrolyte drinks. So what about caffeine? That comes up as caffeine a diuretic. Yeah, in large amounts it can be, but in small amounts it's not a big deal. So if you're really thirsty, just got done, you know your fluids are down, and someone has green tea, it's not like, oh, you should avoid green tea. No, it's fine. Drink your green tea, just chase it with some additional water. They have a good blurb about energy drinks here, I think is reasonable. So if you type in CDC guidance on this, you can see this. If you're working out in the heat, drink 3/4 to 1 quart per hour is reasonable. So that's a good rule. If you're outdoors, if you're indoors, it could be a little less. So that's one way to monitor. I don't like that way. I think the other way that I like to tell my patients is this. If your urine color is light and you've had 2 voids or you've gone to the bathroom twice within an hour, then you probably can slow down your hydration. Most of us are environmentally controlled. In other words, we're in air conditioning. And so we tend to not drink enough fluids because we don't feel like we're losing enough fluids. And I'll hear patients say, oh yeah, I only urinate once per half day every 4 hours. That's wrong right there. And they're like, it's always dark here. Okay. You do that, you're not gonna be able to go work out afterwards because you're just drying. So if you can drink enough fluids and the urine is light yellow to clear like water, and you're going every hour, you're well hydrated, you can start backing off. If you're going every 3 hours, that's too long, even if you're indoors, so you need to hydrate a little bit more. So if you're in hard work and it's the hottest, you gotta drink more fluids. Now, what type of fluids should we drink? If you are losing electrolytes, you're vomiting, if you're sick, you got COVID, you got diarrhea, or you went for a hot run in the sauna, also known as North Texas in August, then you should use electrolytes. I like Pedialyte. Gatorade would be good if you want to dilute it. Just don't do free water though if you're sweating a lot. If you're all day sweating and you bring in nothing but free water, you're diluting your electrolytes, and that could lead to serious conditions like seizures. What is the fastest way to move the fluid from the small intestine into the bloodstream, into the cells? A little bit of sugar plus electrolytes. And of course, the water is the fastest route. The concentration of Gatorade is a little bit too concentrated with sugar.
So if you dilute it by half, so you do 1 part Gatorade, 1 part water, and the mixture is optimal for absorption. So who needs to worry about the speed of absorption? Well, if you're in the middle of the run, or if you're in the middle of another physical activity and you're sweating profusely, then you need to have an electrolyte drink rather than free water. If after the run you're at home drinking regular Gatorade, just chase it a little water in it or after it, and then you should be hydrated quickly. If you have a smartwatch, then learn your baseline resting heart rate. The health app in Apple has this information, and so does Garmin. Garmin has its own app. When you're well hydrated, your resting heart rate is usually lower. So get your baseline resting heart rate. So let's say your baseline resting heart rate is in the 40s and 50s, usually when you're sitting around on the desk. Then you notice it's in the 70s. And if you're not in pain or you're not sick, then your resting heart rate is elevated because of underhydration. You probably need at least 1 liter to get caught up, and if you drink it, you'll start noticing your heart rate will go down probably in about half an hour. If your heart rate suddenly jumps by 10 beats or more when you change from a sitting to standing position, that's another sign that you could be fluid down, especially if that heart rate remains high after 1 minute. Here's another hint. If you become dizzy when you stand up from a sitting down position or laying down position and you stand up, then you are fluid down. This assumes, of course, that you're not on certain medications. So who's at risk? Those people who are taking GLP-1s or glutides or peptides are at risk of dehydration or underhydration because the medication decreases everything that goes into your mouth. So the amount of food and the amount of drink that actually enter the system is lower. And this is why I teach my patients to use these 3 criteria to determine their fluid status.
All right, so if you're in the state of Texas and you need help managing your GLP-1 because you can't get a hold of your clinic, whatever the reason, you're not getting good guidance, if you need help figuring out the compound dosing, you got this compound stuff and the concentration is throwing you off, you lost your sheet, you may call, I'm licensed in Texas. If you're in another state, unfortunately, I can't practice medicine over there. You have to find a qualified person in your state. Tubby Doc out.